Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Protests return to UC San Diego today as thousands of students marched through campus. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. They walked out of class today to protest the war in Gaza and the treatment of pro-Palestine protesters. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen has more.
The peaceful march through campus is an indication UCSD students are not giving up their demand that the university divest from companies involved in the war. On Monday, police forcibly broke up a pro-Palestinian encampment on campus. Maya is a student organizer who declined to give her last name. She says the campus crackdown was wrong, but the main focus of today's march is Gaza.
We have seen thousands more of innocent civilians being bombed and being forced out of Gaza, the last place that they were allowed in, and we really want to center this right now. This is what started it all, keeping all eyes on Gaza, as this is unlike any war that has been seen.
40 students were arrested in Monday's crackdown. They've been placed on an interim suspension and have to go through disciplinary proceedings, which could result in their expulsion. Among the students' other demands, amnesty for those arrested students. They also want UCSD to commit funding to rebuild universities in Gaza, all of which have been severely damaged or destroyed. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Hundreds of flood victims say the city knew about long-standing issues with the stormwater drainage system ahead of the January storm. KPBS reporter Katie Anastis spoke to one South Crest resident who is part of a lawsuit.
More than 200 people whose homes flooded in January are named in the lawsuit. They say the city knew the stormwater drainage system was too clogged to work properly and failed to clear it.
So what we know is that the clogging of Cholas Creek has been a known problem for years, and that the city's own documentation and reports show that they knew that something had to be done about it, and we know for a fact that the city did nothing about it.
Greg Montoya is one of the flood victims involved in the lawsuit. Dirt paths and a berm separate his backyard from a concrete channel.
It was so much debris and so much trash. It just, mattresses, shopping carts, you name it, you would have found it in there.
Repair work is still underway at his South Crest home. The garage where he restores antique furniture also flooded. Montoya and the other flood victims named in the suit are asking for $100 million in damages from the city. Residents of a Mountain View apartment complex also sued the city earlier this year. Montoya and other residents sued the city in 2019 over the same problem. He says the city settled for $209,000. A spokesperson from the city attorney's office says they have no comment on the pending litigation. San Diego County extended its hotel voucher program for flood victims until June 21st. More than 1,900 people, including Montoya, are still in the program as of this week. Katie Anastis, KPBS News.
President Biden and former President Donald Trump took very different approaches to reach voters today as we inch closer to the general election. Trump visited supporters at Mar-a-Lago while President Biden campaigns in the battleground state of Wisconsin. Julia Benbrook has the details.
President Joe Biden announcing a more than $3 billion investment from Microsoft to build a new artificial intelligence facility in Wisconsin.
It's going to be transformative. Not just here, but worldwide.
This new facility will be located at the same site where in 2018, then President Donald Trump broke ground on what was supposed to be a signature project under his administration, an electronics factory for Taiwan's Foxconn, which had secured billions in tax credits and promised thousands of jobs. Those investments largely failed to materialize.
They dug a hole with those golden shovels and then they fell into it.
Meanwhile, Trump has the day off from court. On Tuesday, Stormy Daniels, the adult film star Trump is accused of trying to silence with a hush money payment, took the stand. Daniels detailed the alleged affair she had with Trump, which he denies ever happened. Trump has pleaded not guilty to 34 counts of falsifying business records.
I should be in a lot of different places right now campaigning, and I'm sitting here.
Trump often complains that he should be on the campaign trail when he's stuck in court. But the trial goes dark on Wednesdays, and Trump is choosing to spend this Wednesday at Mar-a-Lago with supporters who purchased multiple NFTs. Trump's NFTs include a photo of his mugshot taken after he was arrested in Georgia last year. His NFTs are not connected to the campaign. Reporting in Washington, I'm Julia Benbrook.
The Biden administration is looking to make changes to the U.S. immigration system. CNN reports the administration is likely to propose a rule that cracks down on migrants who are ineligible to claim asylum. The rule would also give officials the ability to quickly deny those who are not eligible to remain in the U.S. The proposal would still need to enter a public comment period. California lawmakers are working to decide whether to implement a price gouging penalty for oil companies. As Ashley Zavala reports, there were many questions about how the state law could impact the market and gas prices.
This is one of the most important charts.
California lawmakers checking in on the state's new law that attempts to hold oil companies accountable for spiking gas prices.
And correct me if I'm wrong, that your assessment so far did not indicate any clear evidence of price gouging in this marketplace. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Siva Gunda, the vice president of the California Energy Commission, told the key committee in the state Senate, while there's no evidence of price gouging, oil companies are profiting off of price spikes. The commission is deciding if it will set a profit limit and potential penalty on oil companies that make too much money off of California drivers. Gunda faced many questions about how this could impact the market and gas prices.
We are still in the process of evaluating the opinions of the experts we have.
Okay.
Currently, what we understand is there's a divergence of opinion.
Oil industry leaders warned a profit cap and penalty could drive refiners out of state and limit the state's supply. Democrats split.
Some of us come from very disadvantaged communities. These are the consumers that are going to really bear the brunt of the cost hikes.
I think personally, that the oil companies, the four major companies that control our refinery market here, are manipulating prices.
Even a state lawmaker from Arizona stopped in to say this would have a negative impact beyond California.
Now, we all need each other. We need you for fuel. You need us for electricity, right? We all have to work together in the West.
The leader of the Western States Petroleum Association echoing this.
I really would like to get back to where we worked together to solve problems. In this state, we used to do that. And right now, it's just political rhetoric and division.
Ashley Zavala with that report. The commission is set to vote on whether to implement the profit limit and cap before the end of the year. Meantime, here's what prices look like in San Diego County. Prices are down for the 9th consecutive day. Regular self-serve costs $5.30 on average. The average cost is down nearly 5 cents from a week ago, but a half-cent more than it cost a month ago.
I'm Jeff Bennett. Tonight on the NewsHour, the U.S. pauses a shipment of bombs to Israel over concerns about a Rafah offensive. That's at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Retailers across the U.S. say consumers aren't shopping like they used to. Now stores are dropping prices on thousands of products, and these markdowns come after inflation pushed prices higher for the last 2 years. Ivan Rodriguez has the latest on this sudden turn.
In the last several weeks, a slew of retailers announced price cuts to try and bring shoppers back into stores.
Price cuts are a proven lever to drive sales and grab attention.
Michael's, the arts and crafts store with more than 1,300 stores in the U.S., announced last month it was dropping prices on 5,000 products. And during its most recent earnings call, clothing chain H&M says they believe they'll have lower prices at the end of this year than the beginning. Zach Stambor, senior analyst with eMarketer, says the majority of the many items seeing the slash in prices are considered to be discretionary purchases, meaning things that are nice to have but not a necessity.
Retailers are having to convince consumers to open their wallets and spend.
For the last year, shoppers have pulled back as costs have risen 20 to 30% higher than they were 3 years ago. Not only that, but incomes are failing to keep up, resulting in all types of shoppers looking for deals.
Middle-income consumers have also become more mindful about where, when, and how they spend.
One of the hurdles for retailers is getting consumers out of that frugal mindset. Although spending was boosted by purchases of high-ticket items and services like cars and travel, spending on furniture, clothing, and electronics remains weak.
There's a real battle to capture consumers' attention because consumers are thinking twice about when they spend.
I'm Ivan Rodriguez reporting.
Soon, there will be even more to love at the happiest place on earth. Disneyland cleared a major hurdle that will allow it to expand parks without acquiring new land. Anaheim unanimously granted final approval to rezone much of the property. While no specific designs have been shared yet, Disney did release concept art for what the expansion could look like. It will be the biggest project at Disneyland since gates opened back in 1955. Next, Disney and Anaheim will work on finalizing a development agreement good until 2064. More than 2 million new cancer cases are expected to be diagnosed in the U.S. this year, and that's according to the American Cancer Society. Researchers say despite making significant strides, Black women continue to be disproportionately impacted. Mandy Gaither tells us about a new study aimed at changing that.
It's called Voices of Black Women, a new study by the American Cancer Society aimed at addressing cancer disparities.
We need to really get at what those multi-level drivers are to understand how and we can best intervene.
The organization says about 1 in 3 Black men and women will be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime, and 1 in 6 Black women will die from the disease. Factors that influence cancer disparities include structural racism, socioeconomic status, access to care, other health conditions, and medical mistrust.
But there's so much more to that story that we still don't understand as it relates to cancer inequities for Black women.
That's why researchers started this study Monday, hoping to enroll at least 100,000 cancer-free Black women between the ages of 25 and 55 in 21 states. After eligibility confirmation and consent to participate, those taking part will fill out a health and lifestyle survey. After that, surveys to update or collect new information will be sent out twice a year for the next 20 to 30 years.
So it's really about an hour of time from a participant's perspective on an annual basis to go on this journey with us to help us uncover the different factors that may be related to how we can improve the health of Black women for future generations.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Anyone interested in enrolling or getting more information on the study can go to the link on your screen, voices.cancer.org. A local company is doing its part to help families enjoy a safe and loving Mother's Day. Employees with 2 men and a truck began packing up donations for its annual Movers for Moms drive today, and they collect household items such as comforters, towels, and pillows, and then they deliver them to the YWCA's Becky's House. It's a nonprofit that helps women and children dealing with domestic violence. Heather Finlay with Becky's House says holidays are typically difficult for the families that they help.
It's always challenging whenever you're around a holiday, dealing with domestic violence, having to leave sometimes in the middle of the night with nothing but what you're wearing. Just a huge, huge help and a huge comfort to the families moving in. It helps them to feel like they're in a home. It helps them feel safe and secure.
2 men in a truck say moves like this typically cost families $4,000 to $5,000, but all of those services have been donated. Time is running out. If you haven't bought a gift or started planning for Mother's Day yet, Jen Sullivan looks at some of the spending trends and has some creative ideas to help lower costs without losing sentimentality.
Sunday is Mother's Day, a day devoted to making the moms in our lives feel appreciated. And that might mean buying her something special. People plan to spend an average of $254 per person this holiday. That's a total spending of $33.5 billion, according to the National Retail Federation.
Consumers know that the real way to mom's heart is by making her feel extra special on this day.
Catherine Cullen with the National Retail Federation says topping the list of gifts this year are flowers and greeting cards, followed by spending on a special outing like dinner or brunch. Other ideas include jewelry or electronics, such as a new phone, or perhaps some noise-canceling headphones. Another creative idea is splurging on an experience.
Some of the experiences we see consumers gravitating towards are a spa experience, maybe a cooking class.
Happy Mother's Day! But you don't have to empty your wallet to make the day memorable for mom. One way to keep the cost down is to do a fun activity with the family, like hike or plan a picnic. Cullen also recommends looking for deals and discounts to help keep costs down.
We are starting to see retailers advertise Mother's Day deals and promotions, and we know that even more will be out there as the day gets closer.
But remember, no matter what you do, quality time is what matters most. And that's priceless. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
A documentary making its San Diego premiere tonight features one filmmaker's personal journey to learn about his brother, a soldier who fought in Vietnam. KPBS military and veterans reporter Andrew Dyer has a preview.
After honorably serving with the Army in Vietnam, 24-year-old Jimmy McDowell was honorably discharged. He returned to the country as a civilian and died there in 1972. Filmmaker and brother Peter McDowell was just 5 at the time. He says growing up, his older brother's death was shrouded in silence and secrets.
It was sort of like a detective mystery story that I felt I wanted to answer.
To find those answers, in 2010, McDowell began making Jimmy in Saigon, a documentary chronicling his 12-year investigation. His search brought him across the U.S., to France and Vietnam. What he uncovered was a complicated story about war and the military that isn't often told.
There's a few controversial issues in the film. We do talk about drug use, we talk about sexuality, and I think a lot of these things had a lot of shame associated with them in the old days.
Composer John McDowell is older than his brother Peter and younger than Jimmy. While working on the music in the documentary, he says he's reminded of his brother's influence.
He was very supportive of my music career, and that's where my inspiration really came from him.
Jimmy in Saigon is part of the GI Film Festival being held at the Museum of Photographic Arts at the San Diego Museum of Art in Balboa Park. McDowell says this festival, which is presented by KPBS, is unique. Jimmy in Saigon screens at the festival tonight. Andrew Dyer, KPBS News.
If you like the quiet weather pattern that we've been dealing with, we get more of the same as we head through the upcoming days. One of the most significant changes will be the warming trend, though, for some of the interior valley and the interior locations. We will find those numbers going up a little bit, but overall, we have a quiet end to the work week, and that May gray pattern, it is not going anywhere, so we're going to be stuck with that. Of course, that means tonight a few extra clouds, especially as you work your way closer to the coast. Oceanside, 54 degrees with those clouds increasing. Chula Vista coming in at 55. And as you work your way a little bit farther to the east, Mount Laguna coming in at 44 degrees. Still looking pretty quiet across the region as we go through tonight into tomorrow morning. You can see there's not a whole lot going on. We do have the clouds, though, still holding on here for Southern California, which means that May gray is still going to be with us. But overall, we keep things dry, quiet. The interior Southwest, that's where some of the stormy weather is, and it stays far away from our area. So our pattern remains dry, remains pleasant for the most part as we look at things for Thursday. Some of that chilly, showery weather will be found through the interior Southwest, so the Great Basin. Some of those locations will be dealing with some of those chances for rainfall. Us, it's just a few of those clouds in the morning giving way to some more afternoon sunshine. 68 the high in San Diego. Escondido coming in at 73 83 degrees. So we will be warming our way up. Borrego Springs coming in at 90 degrees for that high. And for Friday, the warming trend continues, especially as you get away from the coast. If you're towards the coast, that's where we keep things more or less the same. There's not a lot of changes for us, but if you are inland, that's where you'll find some of those changes. Notice the coast holding on to the 60s and lower 70s for the upcoming days. Morning clouds giving way to afternoon sunshine. Pretty similar setup for the inland communities, except we'll be in the mid 70s there. As you look towards the mountain communities, we're back into the 50s, sunshine and a few clouds. We'll be talking about a warming trend, though, into next week. And for the desert communities, back into the 90s here, and up and away we go for the weekend. For KPBS News, I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Melissa Constanzer.
The San Diego Symphony has just announced its fall season program, which will be performed in its newly renovated hall. And that hall was supposed to be open last year. KPBS reporter John Carroll talked exclusively with the Symphony's music director and CEO about the delay. They told him it will be worth the wait.
We last brought you an update on the massive renovation at Symphony Hall in February of last year. Here's what it looked like then. You could sum it up as clearly a space where extensive work was going on. Fast forward to early last month when we spoke exclusively with San Diego Symphony music director Maestro Rafael Payare in the hall. The symphony limited us on what we could show. The $125 million project is so immense, so complex, it's understandable they want to keep a lot of it a surprise until it's ready for its big debut. But those video limitations did nothing to dampen our interview with Payare, whose enthusiasm for what will be the symphony's new home is boundless.
It's just going to be phenomenal.
Several weeks after that interview, the symphony provided new footage of the interior of the Jacobs Music Center as it looks now, work clearly still in progress on restoring the intricate details of what was once the Grand Fox Theater, including all new audience seating. But a lot of what you can't see is what will make the difference in the newly renovated hall. Over the years of this restoration, Symphony CEO Martha Gilmer has become intimately familiar with all of it.
The latest technology for sound, lighting, acoustics, the grid room at the top where all this incredible mechanical engineering takes place, so that you can effortlessly see sound panels float above the stage, or sophisticated lighting fixtures.
A choral terrace is being added to the back of the stage to accommodate pieces that feature a chorale. And when it's not being used for singers, it will provide very unique seating for the audience. Several rows of seating have been removed from the back of the theater, a change that Payare loves.
It's not a small hall. I mean, it's still a big hall, but now somehow everything feels more connected and there's not the space. Now we're part of this wonderful thing that we could have synergy in between when we're actually doing music, which is very important for us when we're going to be on stage.
The hall is flexible. There are draperies hidden behind walls that can be pulled so that an event, a film, spoken word, amplified musicians can also be at home on that stage. When it needs to be less reverberant, we're able to tune the hall and adjust it in such a way to make it an excellent concert hall for that as well.
So what about the delay? Why is the newly renovated hall opening nearly a year after its first announced opening date? It's worth remembering that what now looks like this, a high-rise called Symphony Towers, is built above and around this, the old Fox Theater. When you take on an extensive renovation of a 93-year-old building, there are going to be unexpected challenges.
Renovation of an old building is always more challenging than building a new building, because you have to deal with the surprises and the design that reveals itself from the original building along the way. And there were certainly things that we discovered that then we had to be really creative.
When it reopens this September, the hall will, for now, be known simply as the Jacobs Music Center. It had been Copley Symphony Hall at the Jacobs Music Center, but the Copley Foundation has agreed to surrender the name, allowing the symphony to offer it to another philanthropist. And while the symphony enjoys broad support from the public, it is major philanthropy that makes the big things possible, something that neither Rafael Payare or Martha Gilmer take for granted.
It is always inspiring to me to see the passion that they have and the commitment, knowing that they've been fortunate and wanting to share that fortune.
We have our wonderful, wonderful benefactors that they have been giving us the opportunity to have wings and fly, and not to kind of have any kind of limits, but actually it just leave us to dream and try to achieve higher and higher artistic standard, which is phenomenal.
Or put another way, it will be worth all those millions, all the extra time the process has taken when it is ready to welcome audiences once again. That point was driven home when I asked Payare where the new hall will rank in the great symphony halls of the world.
It will be easily a top 5. And I mean, this is San Diego, come on. This is a beautiful, wonderful city. Now we're going to have this amazing, wonderful hall for that it deserves the orchestra, because the orchestra is already very world class. That we needed to have a wonderful instrument to have, and we are achieving it. So I could not be more excited.
Combined with the symphony's spectacular outdoor venue, the Rady Shell, there are and will be endless reasons for San Diegans to be excited and proud for generations to come. John Carroll, KPBS News.
And we want to note that the San Diego Symphony and the Jacobs family are supporters of KPBS. Well, here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom on NPR's Morning Edition. Even though TikTok may go away, the app continues to gain followers among members of the military. And KPBS Midday Edition has a wrap-up of the latest in arts and culture in San Diego, including a new exhibit at the Comic-Con Museum. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.